Can we please have another round of applause for our music today, please? So, we are talking about fatherhood today. The divine masculine. So many things come up for me when I think about that, One of the main things is what it means to be male, what it means to be a man, what that means, And growing up in America, there's so many definitions we get. I used to love watching G.I. Joe, and they would always give you some message at the end, don't talk loud because not everyone wants to hear your voice, kids, or it's always good to wash your hands, or always tell the truth. And it was always the same thing at the end is, now we know, and knowing is half the battle. We used to really carry that with us, and I'm just like, wow, cartoons today don't have that. They don't have that message at the end like that. It's just super, super silly, and they're going to sneak some consumerism in there somehow, and then, all right, go be somebody. And I just really look at that. But I think what's funny is while we can all ask ourselves, what is fatherhood, what is manhood, something that we can all agree on, we pretend like we don't believe it, but is that men don't cry. Oh, we pretend like, oh, that's not true. But I always see something very interesting when a man is feeling vulnerable. It tends to make people feel uncomfortable at first. If a man starts crying, we all look around first. It's almost like we need to give ourselves permission. And the other thing I understand is oftentimes when a man feels vulnerable like that, he starts to judge himself. He almost feels like he's being a burden on the community for feeling human. Before I go any further, I want to shout out so many great fathers that helped bring me along, starting with my biological father, who is my hero that I love so much, but also my uncles, also my stepfather, rest in peace. See, I just gave you 4 examples of very masculine, very macho, very, very manly men, and on multiple occasions, I've seen every last one of those men cry. And I'm truly thankful for that. There is something beautiful about being a masculine man and still showing the world that I can be human, I can be transparent, I can allow myself to feel. It's a very beautiful and freeing feeling. And we need to embrace that a lot more. One of my favorite memories of when I became a father, of course, is when I first saw my child for the first time. And I walk into that room after he's been born, and, his grandmother just smiles and gives me a big hug, and she says, "It's a boy," and, I'm just full of all kind of joy. And as I'm looking at my beautiful son there, I don't want to touch him. And the nurse just picks him up and says, "You want to hold your new baby?" and places him right there on my arm. And it was almost like she knew as soon as she did that, I was like, no, I don't want to. And so I always tease him whenever he cries. Like, I get to tease you because you made me cry the first day I met you, boy. We know that mama has the hardest job. We know that. But I'm not even trying to come for that. We know that mama has the hardest job. But we get so used to being manly men that we do not allow ourselves to be celebrated. And we need to allow ourselves to do that. I remember at one of my other church homes, a woman was talking about a day where her father was being honored at his job. And the whole time he's, just doing my job. The whole ceremony, just what I do, just doing my job. The whole time. And she said, do you know every time somebody comes over for dinner, he plays that whole video of them honoring him, and he shows all the awards. He loved it. But he had to pretend, just doing my job, just proud to be here. You know, you love that we honoring you right now. And that's who we are as men. We love all of that. We just got to pretend and be all cool. We love it. And that's why this day is important. Because so many of us do not allow ourselves to feel that. Mama has the hardest job. I'm not going to front it all. Yes, she does. But it's time for us also to honor the fact that we are both mom and dad right now where we're sitting. Without one, there is no us. Right? I remember, please understand, my father is, this man is ex-Black Panther and so many other things. Mentor to the community. I think he retired with Richmond Fire Department as the captain. I mean, my father has been so many amazing things in my life. And one thing I used to love was how my sister and I went to John Muir Elementary together in Berkeley. You know, you go to the Claremont Hotel, you're looking at the Claremont. Yeah, that little school, right? Yeah, that's where we went. And Dad used to drive his rig all the way from Richmond all the way onto those basketball courts to teach the kids about fire safety. And me and my sister got to be like, that's our daddy right there. And it was just so fun. And another thing I used to love about that is, you know, my dad got to be playful because, you know, with me, he was very serious and, you know, not rigid, but he was not playing about his boy knowing what it was to be a man. And so oftentimes my father was in that very serious role a lot. So when he was goofy, it was a treat. And one of our favorite things to do together, me, my dad, my sister, is go to the movies. And so this is one day where my sister and I are supposed to go see, I think it was one of those Disney movies, Shipwrecked or something like that. We did a lot of Disney. And so we're playing hide and go seek in the firehouse. And I'm looking for my sister because, you know, she's my little sister. I can't let her beat me in hide and go seek. Come on now. And I'm looking and I hear a door close. And when I turn around, I think I see my sister running in the courtyard. So I take off after her. And when I take off, I realize that I just ran into a glass door. So I'm like, why am I on my back? And why is my lip busted? And I immediately was worried I was going to get in trouble, and Dad's mad because I hurt myself. And I mean, just the whole time, all he did was make jokes about it and was playful about it. That is my father. A man who knew how to be the security blanket and getting things done and provided, but at the same time, knowing how to laugh and enjoy life in the moment for what it is. We're given, oftentimes, two versions of fatherhood in America. He's either way too overbearing, way too mean, way too rigid, or he's Homer Simpson. I love that I have a father who has always been reliable, but can also be really silly. And so that's allowed me to as well be silly and gentle. You know, my father growing up in Berkeley and going to Berkeley High and, you know, in the 60s, it's a different kind of man. So while people may see this muscle-bound, oh my goodness, everybody get out the way, I saw my father do so many gentle things for the community. One thing I love about my dad is he does not play people littering. Oh my goodness. If you are a human being who is 8 years old and up and you litter, oh my, you are going to hear his mouth. He does not play that. When you become a father, something ignites in you. You realize I am a father to all these children running around here. I don't get to just be a father to my own children. Sometimes you get to be the bad guy. Sometimes you get to be out and be like, hey, you kids stop doing that. That's dangerous. And everybody gets to be mad at you for being the party pooper old guy. And you get to be like, yeah, that's who I am. That's another thing I had to get over when it came to being a father. Sometimes you get to be the police. Sometimes you get to be the one to say, stop all this fun right now, and have people not like you. And that was the one part of manhood I was not ready for. I want people to like me. Can't somebody else tell those kids not to do it? Why I gotta be me? I want to thank our brother today for talking about how there's something in our rituals that makes him uncomfortable. Because that's growth, what he talked about. And oftentimes when things do not feel good, and the world around us is changing, we freak out because we get used to it looking a certain way. What we all want is to be loved and to be comforted when things start looking crazy. That's what we all want. But oftentimes as men, we don't feel like we're allowed to do that. But what we are allowed to do is get angry and act tough about it with our anger, when really inside what we're saying is, I am scared, somebody please hold me. Seeing people protest about something that they feel is just the way things are, that is frightening. And what they're really saying is, please, somebody hold me. If you go to the Emeryville, Powell Street area, there's what's called the Black Bear Diner? It's a chain of those, right? It used to be Lions. It was like a cheaper Denny's. Remember Lions with the LYO? That's what it used to be. That's what I always remember there. And the reason I remember that is because around this time when Dad took me and my sister to go eat, he was explaining to us how he and my mother were probably most likely divorcing and how things were going to change. Understand, this was our favorite restaurant. We sitting there with our little crayons, coloring a little coloring book menu, and he's explaining this. And as he's explaining this, the vibe is changing. Dad's not being so silly right now. This is serious time. He's talking very gently, but he's serious. And I remember the tears just coming down my sister's face. And in that moment, all I could do was sit there and be angry, because my world was changing before me and I was terrified. This resulted in me being angry at school, getting into fights, yelling at my teacher, and I was labeled a bad kid. When in the end, all I really wanted was somebody to hold me and say, it's going to be all right. Understand that everybody in here, we're all children of God, which means we're really just all children. And while we think we're adults, we're going to go through moments that remind us that we are just children. And when that happens, we get to tap into the child within us, the father in all of us. You don't have to be born male to have a father in you. You already have a father. So therefore, you are connected to your father. We all have a father in us. And as spiritual warriors, we get to fight with love. And when somebody is crying out to be loved, we get to love them. I've seen my father do that so many times. So many times when I disappointed him. So many times when I have let him down and he got to sit there and love me anyway. This is what masculinity is to me. There's a character in that 97 X-Men, no, not 97, hold on, let me get it right. 94 X-Men cartoon. Very important cartoon if you're an 80s baby like me. I'm talking about as soon as you hear that music come on, we start, yeah, oh my goodness. And there's a character on this X-Men team known as Beast. He's just as mean and fierce and vicious as the rest of the team. But something's different about Beast. Beast, all he ever really does is read and meditate and chill out. Has the power to be an outright fav. I mean, if you know Beast's power and his ferocity, you do not want to play with him. But all Beast ever does is read and better himself because he knows the capability of his powers. When I think of real fatherhood, I think of that. When you have the power to flex like that at any moment, but you harness it always in a creative and beautiful way. Let's allow our men to be gentle. When a man is coming and freaked out, when he feels like he needs to scream and cry, let's be that ear. See, when I see a man act out violently in a way where it affects all of us, I know what's really going on. Somebody did ask for help at first. Somebody probably even cried at first, and they probably were made fun of or pushed aside, like, come on now, just man up. Humans, we all have the capacity to do hurtful things to our community. It's not just men. We all have the capacity. It does not race, not sexual identity. We all have the power to do that. Just like we all have the power to heal it. So when someone is acting out, when someone is trying their best to understand the world that's going on around them, who is going to listen to that person? Because when one of us is in pain, we know we are all connected. And we're all just little babies trying to figure it out. That's what we're here for. This is fatherhood to me. We're talking about nothing more than just the masculine expression of love. That's all we're talking about. Our job here is to love, period. However you do it, put your own flavor on it, but that's what we're here to do. And anyone coming to you with conflict, what they're really saying is, please, for the love of God, pour some love on this situation. And it doesn't always come in the way you want it to, especially when you're a seasoned mathematician like everybody in this crowd. But you think someone's going to walk up to you and say, please, kind sir, would you give me a hug and pray for me? Because I'm going through something. It's not going to happen that way. I'm sorry. If that happens, I'm telling you, the meter is on its way. We done did everything we need to do if it happens that way. It's always going to come in a way that rattles you and stirs you up. Because as they're getting their growth, guess who gets to get their growth too? It's the way this works. That's why I don't get to wish something on anyone that I do not want for myself as well. Because the universe only says yes. So if I be like, I wish you would just, guess what the universe is telling me to? All I get to do is just, suck that up and be like, bless you. That's all I get to do. Yes, toxic masculinity does exist. But that does not mean that masculinity itself is toxic. Please understand that the men who raised me, very macho, very much chest out, very much let me build something, very much like I wish somebody would in here, and very much that. And I promise you, within the same breath, they would give you the shirt off their back. They will cry with you. They will hug you. These are the men that raised me. I know that there are masculine men walking the world right now that are not toxic at all. But if we say all men are toxic, then guess what? All the men who aren't are going to be like, well, I might as well be because you're going to call me that anyway. I speak to you as a person who leaves the house with nothing more than love on his mind. But yet I sometimes feel like I have to prove to the world that I am not out for danger first before they're even open to receiving that love. And I know I'm not the only one who feels that way. I feel like that's part of the male experience. It's like one day you're little Luchan running around the church, and one day when you grow up, all the men are mate garden. And all the women who grew up with you and watched you grow up are treating like you are potentially dangerous. And it just happens overnight. It's not a bad thing, but it's something that men are not prepared for. We prepare our young girls for womanhood. We tell them this was going to happen. This is how grown men are going to be looking at you. But for young boys, we are not prepared for that. And that needs to be talked about. But guess what we are prepared for? Look at the difference in toys, right? Look at the difference in toys. We let our young girls know very early, you will be a mother. This is something that can possibly happen. But what do we give our young boys? You get sports toys and you get war toys. I'm not saying either are bad. I like to play laser tag and I like to play throw it up tackle. But guess what? None of those toys prepared me for fatherhood. That's something I got to learn on my own. Thank God for my father and my uncles. But not so many young men are as lucky as me. What am I saying today mainly? What's the main message? Let's not only make room for masculinity, but let's also be patient with it. Because today I feel like it is very misunderstood. There's a part of me that, just growing up and just having these powerful women in my family, I just love women. It's not that I feel like they're weaker than me. I just think the women are awesome. How can I help? What can I do? Can I be down? Let me protect you. Anything. Because that's how I feel about women. And it's funny when you grow up being taught, hey, do this, and and even if you don't know this person, do that, and then you grow up one day and you can actually be cussed out for trying to hold the door open for somebody. We ask, maybe not this crowd, but trust me, the question is being asked very, very much so, more than ever, where are all the real men? They've gone nowhere. They're just afraid to actually be what their natural selves are supposed to be because they keep getting called toxic for it. Me showing up masculine does not mean I'm showing up to be toxic. Give me a chance first. Give me a chance. I'm always weird about fatherhood because, I have my own issues with it. Feel like it's not appreciated as much, and because of that I go into my own pain and my own and I always want to stop myself and keep it neutral, and then I feel like I'm being fake because I feel like there's too much of that safe message in every pulpit right now. We don't want to ruffle feathers. But when we ruffle feathers, we grow. And it's easy to see God in all those easy places, right? Oh, God is the cute little puppy dog, and God is the nice blue sky, and God is the fish in the ocean. But who is willing to say, yeah, God is also the gangster rap music where the guy is cussing to the top of his lungs? God is in that family courtroom where dads are not being treated fairly and being kept from their fathers just because. See, when you start talking about that, then we start squirming in our seats, which is okay to me because, uncomfort is growth. Remember that it is us. It is our job as divine beings to see the divine in every experience we are having. If I can look at this and not see the God, then that means it is on me as a divine being to open my eyes wider. I'm not saying that to y'all for y'all. I'm saying that to myself. I just don't want to talk to myself, so I need y'all here. Why am I talking about that? Well, I'm currently in a custody battle with not just my ex-wife, but my oldest son's mother as well. I've been a dedicated father, a loving father my whole life, and it hurts me that at any moment a man can be pointed at and say that person is terrible, and they will just be believed and it'll be perceived. And so when we talk about Father's Day, I feel like it's important for us to also talk about that side of masculinity, or how easy it is for a man to be just put in that category because someone said so. It's really that easy. You could have watched him growing up in church with you. A lot of men are seeing other men go through this, and that's why so many men are like, I don't ever want to be a father. Because they're seeing men go through it. Seeing men just like me who all they've ever done is respect women and protect children. And just like that, got cut off from their own. So what I'm saying today is let's at least take more time to open our hearts and our ears to the men around us who are going through pain, because as human, we are all going through a vulnerable experience, but if we're only hearing one person, that is imbalance. You don't have to agree. One thing we can all agree with is pain does not feel good. We can at least agree on that. And if they've chosen you to express, hey brother, hey sis, hey whoever, I am going through something, maybe it's because they see the divine in you. One last story. I remember when my grandfather, William Oliver, passed away. And many of the family members were still very hurt about this months later. And we're doing the inner child journey. Remember the inner child? We're doing that awesome exercise. And finally, it's my turn to pick a partner, and just by the grace of God, my uncle and I ended up being partners. Now this is my uncle who was he's broken all kind of records at Berkeley High and track team, football team, and oh my goodness, just any sport he played, he was just amazing at. This is that man's man, right? And as I'm looking in my uncle's eyes, I was just telling him what I was feeling about my grandfather and the pain I was feeling and how much I miss him. And you know, it just came out. Now understand, y'all, this is this man's father. And what he did next was something I did not expect. He broke down crying in front of me. And I got to hold my uncle and be the parent for the first time. He showed me that as strong as I am, nephew, as big and bad your uncle as I am, even I am man enough to break down crying in front of everybody in here and let myself be human. And to me, that is the true sign of masculinity. If you are too afraid to cry in front, you are acting like you are afraid of the group. To me, a true man can cry in front of anybody and be like, and what? And my uncle did that. There's a rapper by the name of DMX. Grew up in Yonkers, New York. You know, grew up really, really tough. Project life and juvenile hall and just all these really, really hard experiences. And he would always do poems at the end of his show. It's a heartfelt poem where he's talking to God and praying, and not once did he ever get through any of those poems without crying on stage. This is a gangster rapper we talking about, y'all. What we love so much about DMX is we got to show people. We just know the entertainment side of him. You dig into this man's life, he is a loving, dedicated father. I'm talking about affectionate, kissing his kids on the forehead and all happy and singing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer with him, and understand that these men exist. But if we keep treating fatherhood like it's just the secondhand part of the experience, more and more men are going to be like, well, the heck with that. Why would I even sign up for that? As a community, we are all equally important. But if we're only honoring one side of the situation, that has a lot to do with much of the confusion we are seeing right now. I know that this is an uncomfortable subject. Every time I'm asked to do fatherhood, I always get mad because I'm always like, I don't know how to talk about that without talking about the uncomfortable things. I don't know how to keep it all puppy pound, and this is a very, very tender subject for me. But I was called once our brother opened up and talked about how the exercise we do sometimes is tough for him. It was like, yeah, I'm not tripping. Maybe it is time for me to talk about something uncomfortable, because the uncomfort always represents the growth. I love you all. Namaste. Happy Father's Day.